Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee and Crypto. This one's an extra special one for all of you all. We have CryptoStache here with us. Thanks so much for joining us today, man. I've been a big personal fan for over a year. You were actually a big inspiration for me to start my channel originally. So it's really nice to have you on here, get a chance a little bit to talk about, some play to earn titles, kind of what you've been working on currently. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the state of the market and some things that you're really excited for coming up here in the near future. I know I could talk about play to earn for hours, but I figured maybe if I give us a couple, formatted questions, it'll make it a little easier for us. But I really wanted to start things off with kind of almost like a little bit of backstory about you. What got you into play to earn games? Where did that passion really start from? And why did you start your YouTube channel and kind of the journey that you're on, man?
All right, just throwing it all on me. Let's do it. No, I appreciate you having me on, man. And that's really,
Thank you.
Heartwarming to hear that, kind of I was in any small way a help on your journey here in crypto. That's the reason why I'm here. I mean, I stayed because I love the community. I love being helpful, and that kind of, I guess, segues into like, what am I doing here? What the hell am I doing here? And what are we all doing here?
Right.
everyone likes money. It's great. But honestly, I think there's a lot more going on in this industry, this kind of cutting edge of kind of tech and creativity, all kind of melding together. And I love that. I mean, I love being on that cutting edge. I was using the internet in the early 90s or mid 90s, we'll say. And not a lot of people were doing it. I was like, this is going to be hot, and I feel a lot of the similar way here with crypto, and that's kind of really one of the reasons that got me excited about it, is because I saw it took me a little time. I mean, I saw in 2013 finally was when it really clicked, but like saw that Satoshi Nakamoto white paper, really understood what Bitcoin stood for, not just like, oh yeah, it's internet money. I mean, I think that's we're well beyond that at this point. But that was kind of what got me involved in the first place. And seeing the creative side of things coming into the industry, I think has been huge. Personally, because that, like I said, that's where I kind of live. I live in that creative plus tech side. And that's really what's kind of kept me here, that in the community, like seeing everything going on with the community, and the fact that crypto has helped so many people get to a point where they can feel financially free, or even just like financially educated. Really, I think that's one of the bigger things too, is that it's great that you could be on a road to financial freedom. Maybe you're gonna retire early, maybe you've been able to buy a house or make someone else's life better. But also one of the great things is that it really helps us to learn more about our financial system, which a lot of people just don't really understand how it works.
Good
and I think that's one of the biggest things that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies do. And that's one of the things I love doing, is just really being able to teach people and get them to understand some of these kind of complex technical aspects of cryptocurrency a little bit easier. And like I said, the community is the reason why I stuck around that. And like I really got started because I didn't have anybody to talk to about crypto. Like nobody I knew was like, hey, yeah, Bitcoin, this is like 2014. And then then we had the crash in the middle of that year with Mt. Gox. And then, I just kind of sat on it. But 2016, I kind of came back around and I saw Ethereum and I was like, oh, things have changed. There's some new stuff going on. I want to go check this back out. And so I started trying to talk to my friends again about it. And like, again, no one cared. So I created this little blog, and I just, it was called CryptoStache.com. I had a mustache. I was like, all right, let's throw this down. And that the brand was born in the beginning of 2017. And so I really started off as just writing. I was writing a bunch of articles. I wasn't doing YouTube videos. There was almost nobody doing videos, content around crypto at that time. So yeah, really started writing the beginning of 2017, helping people out, I was doing in-person classes, teaching people about Bitcoin in my city, like straight up me in a like suit and tie, and like doing it legit style. And I was just trying to be helpful wherever I could. And that's kind of carried on to what I do today. And the reason why I'm still here is that I do truly like being helpful and fostering a really good community. I may not have like the largest community in crypto, but
yeah, you do.
We have a great community of people who are supportive, who are kind, and who are working towards similar goals together, which is fun, and we like to play games together. So I think that.
Well, I want to comment on that because that's something that really stood out to me too, man, was the community, the kindness, the camaraderie, and just, the general type of people that your community has attracted. I really haven't found anywhere else and nothing against any other content creators out there. Everyone's doing their own thing. It's amazing, but
I'm
there's
the
something
best, damn
truly
it, I'm the
unique.
best, I'm the greatest.
You've
Just
done
say it already.
okay, you've done an amazing job at cultivating incredible people within your community, and that's what really blew me away. Like, yes, your persona, the quality of your content, all that stuff's amazing, but you're right that the community, is really something else. And I think that's, not to be downplayed whatsoever. So big kudos to you there. And it's kind of interesting that you thanks for explaining your journey. I really quick background on us and me. We started from a Web2 marketing company, but we were an innovative company. And of course, innovating, eventually you end up in Web3. And this was about same time, 2018. Gamer, I was actually an ex-pro Clash of Clans player.
Okay.
And my wife ended up getting pregnant. I kind of put that to the side, kept focusing on the business. And then back in 2021 is when I really discovered you play to earn and kind of just went really deep down the rabbit hole and really quickly decided to start a game guild. Now we're over 120 members. We're going strong. I do a different model than most other companies. I actually pay people a base pay rather than a percentage of what they're earning. So regardless of, how well things were doing back in November or now, all of our members are still doing great.
That's cool.
But luckily our marketing company has been able to kind of help facilitate that. Because obviously, back when the bull run was going on, it was very easy to accommodate paying people.
We're all
now
geniuses,
it's a little different, right? Now it's a little different. So I feel very blessed to have created a stable model that I feel can work depending on the bulls or the bears. So
right.
that's been really nice. And I joke with my wife every day. I'm like, I'm literally getting paid to play video games. This is the dream, right? This is the dream.
Living the dream, man.
And got to hire all my friends, a lot of my family, so I've really created a very core unit or group of people that are really helping kind of usher in that next wave. And, now we're looking at all these other titles coming out where we've opened up our game guild so that anyone can join now. You don't have to be a scholar. So you don't have to use assets, and we're starting to focus on more of competitive esports angle towards things because we feel that's what's missing right now in the Web3 crypto space. There's not a lot of esports type competitive focus. It's more log in, click a shiny object, get your tokens, kind of leave. And not all games are like that. But yeah, it's been really interesting for us because it's been a very rapid growth just over a period of a year, where you've been involved in this industry for quite a while. So you've been able to see a lot of the ups and downs. This is the first real bear market for us, I guess you could say. So yeah, I'm kind of curious, what are some titles that you're really looking forward to here in the near future? I know with all your content, you've kind of got your hands on a lot of different things, but is there anything in particular that you're really excited for? And maybe, anything that you're working on kind of in the near future that you're willing to share with us here today?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely play a lot of crypto games. I've been, doing it since the beginning, since there was, the first crypto games, and I play a lot of them pretty regularly. The ones I play regularly that are current games that I'm playing, like Blanco's Block Party is one of my favorites because I love the multiplayer aspect there. Also love playing things like Splinterlands. Was just playing that on stream earlier. I do that every week. Gotham Chain is also one of my old school faves. Been playing that for a long time. But then also some new ones like War Riders is one I played for a little while, which is very not very well known. But man, I feel like there's so much potential with that game. They just need to get off of Ethereum and get onto onto a second scale solution there, a second layer. But yeah, I mean, and then some other games that I've been playing. Phantom Galaxies, which is in kind of like a pre-release alpha right now, has been a ton of fun. I know they have episode 4 that is coming here pretty soon, so I'm excited to play that. I've been playing some of the Illuvium beta, which is just kind of the auto battler portion, but I can't wait to get my hands on the open world portion of that, which is going to be a lot of fun as well. And tomorrow I'm playing Life Beyond, which is a new game that just is in early access as well. So I'm gonna have some new footage on that on the show tomorrow, and I'm excited about that. But like some other ones too, like Forge Arena I played recently was a lot of fun. Undead Blocks. Also, a lot of fun. Some of the Gala games that have recently come out. Obviously, I love Spider Tanks. I'm a big MOBA fan. And some other ones I've seen, like Fortified was okay. Really love Superior, man. That game I think is going to be a winner. It has such a unique element to when I talk about like, well, why do we play? Like what do we really want in a crypto game? Like, am I, I'm not the guy who just will sit there and go click, 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 and that's not a game, dude, man. I want to play fun, actual games that engage me. And Superior, just like Phantom Galaxies, it's one of those newer games where it's like, man, I was engaged. I was playing this game, same thing with Spider Tanks, playing it and not realizing it. Oh shit, man, it's been 2 hours. I got to, like I've literally like almost missed appointments because I didn't realize how long I've been playing. And that's kind of the trap I think we fall in with games a lot. I mean, me personally, is I'll sit there and not realize how much time I'm spending. So I have to be very careful about how much game time I put in. But yeah, I mean, we're actually starting to see a lot of really good crypto-based games coming to the market. There's been a few that I've pretty consistently played, but there's a lot more that have been on the way right now that I think are actually a lot of fun and I enjoy doing. So,
well, it's interesting. Okay, it's interesting you say that because that's been a huge topic of ours in the Game Guild lately is the fun versus earning and kind of the transition that's going on in the space with that. And I think we're all kind of at a point we agree we want the fun games. We don't just want the ones that we can log in, click the shiny objects, get the tokens, move on with our day. However, I will admit from a Game Guild perspective and an earning perspective, that's actually really attractive when you look at it from a business, because you're like, wait, I can have my scholars log in every 4 hours for 3 minutes, click a couple buttons and they're done for another 4 hours. Well, I could just load them up with like 5 or 6 of these games rather than them playing Spider Tanks for hours and hours straight. So there is this interesting kind of, when you look at it from a business perspective and earning perspective, the quick little easy games are actually almost more enticing, but really the individual is not that interested in it. They want to play the fun games, the one that has the story, the interactivity. So it's
right, because those are the ones that suck. They're not actual games. That's the problem. Is that they're just a boring little thing that's gamified to try and get you to go to the website and give them a bunch of daily active users. But the problem with that is that they're not long term, man. These things are not going to survive. And so that's what I'm saying. So like, yeah, if you're a gaming guild, I can see like, oh, here's the 5 clickers or 6 clickers we're doing now. And like, but those are going to be rotating throughout, because basically a lot of these are just a race to the bottom. And that's the problem I see with a lot of these kinds of playing and earning only focused games. They're not really, they don't have any long-term anything really worked out. So it's like short-term, get in, get out, boom, done. And there's always someone kind of like left holding the bag. I mean, I'm going to say that they're started out to be straight Ponzi schemes, but I mean, a lot of it is like, hey, we got to have new people coming in, and we saw what happened with Axie, and we've seen what's happening with games like Pegaxy and some others, and I just feel like there needs to be more there for there to be a long-term vision, and a lot of them just don't have the tokenomics right. So yeah, where it may work in the short term, I do feel that that's not the best long-term strategy. Just personally,
I'm completely with you there, and that's kind of something we had to discover and explore as a Game Guild back in 2021 through all of this too, is kind of to gain that understanding. And the truth is, people just want to play games that are fun. It's really that simple, and
I want to be fun, and it would be great if I could earn too. Like as long as I can own the NFT, like the assets I'm buying, like skins and things like that. As long as I can own my skins as NFTs, then I'm golden. But beyond that, like, yeah, I mean, if I can earn a little something, like I play Splinterlands, and you don't earn a shit ton from that game, but consistent earnings, they've increased it. The rewards are good, and I actually enjoy playing it. It has a good community around it, so that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, same here. Same with us. It is interesting. Just yesterday, I seen, it's not official yet, but I seen the first leak of GTA 6 being talked about adding in a cryptocurrency. I'm not sure if you've heard whispers about that, but of course that's just taking off like wildfire right now. So I'm going to be interested to see if we get any confirmation of that. Was that just hearsay and a rumor? But I feel like there's a huge potential there. And we're starting to see a lot of bigger companies really get involved. I almost feel like it's being downplayed a little bit in the news. It's not getting the attention that I think it should. Like Sony did something with Tron recently. Nobody's talking about that. I think that's going to be kind of interesting. And we're seeing a lot of these bigger titles. I'm not sure if you've seen Ni no Kuni.
Mhm.
cross worlds. I
Yeah.
thought that was amazing what they're doing here. And I mean, just in the first week, they had like 1.5 million in revenue, and they're shoving the crypto down everyone's throats. They're like, yeah, you're earning tokens every day. You've got to log in and do your dailies. You have to connect your wallet in order to get all these rewards.
But they did
And
a
I
good
wanted to ask
job
you,
with like not really coming with that up front. It
you're
was
right.
already an established brand and genre, and they didn't like straight up say, "Hey, it's a crypto game. We're gonna do all this."
Yep.
It was kind of like, "All right, this is how it works," and like, "Oh, but by the way, it is also NFTs and crypto." So
I like that too. And I thought it was kind of
yeah.
clever how they did that, because they leveraged their pre-existing crypto base without really kind of forcing it down people's throats. And I want to ask you if you think that was a good strategy, or how do you think we're going to see kind of the mixture of some of these big brands? Because here's the main question on my mind. Are these big companies really going to be okay with giving away part of their revenue when their shareholders are so used to being able to keep that themselves? Or are the new companies being formed really going to have the advantage because they don't got that pre-existing structure? And that's something I've been thinking about deeply lately. Are we going to have a resistance from these big brands coming in because they're only going to want to give such a small portion back to the players? And is that actually going to make things difficult to get the mass
Mhm.
adoption kind of level that we're looking at? I wanted your opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have some of these bigger game companies get on board, but they're the ones that are going to be kind of entrenched here. They're the
Mhm.
ones that are going to be behind. They're the ones that are not going to be taking the risks, right? Because they're already on top. We've seen this time
Yeah.
and time again. That's why we've seen companies, ebb and flow as far as how popular they are with the games they're making. And so now you see like Rockstar or Epic or Riot, who have become kind of the newer leaders in the space over the
Yeah.
last decade plus of gaming. Whereas before it was kind of like the Activisions and the
Yep.
Blizzards and the EAs and things like that. So I do think that a lot of these companies are already looking at this stuff, whether they're saying it publicly or not. They are definitely all looking at some sort of blockchain enabled solutions for their games. I think that it's an uphill battle for them. I think that
Yeah.
some of these newer companies that are crypto based that understand that everything behind and kind of like put their eggs in this basket, they may have a really good advantage here on being able to kind of secure themselves in an industry before the big guys come in and mess everything up essentially,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the give and take. Is that as a big company you have massive exposure, so the opportunity to expose your game is so much greater, but you don't have that first mover advantage, right? That's
Yeah.
that's something you're not working on. And so, like I said, there's ups and downs to that play, right? And I think that a lot of these gaming companies are kind of holding off to see what other people are going to do first. They don't want to be the first to jump in, but they'll be like in the middle of the pack. That's what everyone's goal is to be. Is they don't want to be right at the beginning because there's too much risk there.
That's right.
But if you're right in the middle of the pack, once you see a couple of people have done it successfully, then you're golden, and that's when we'll see everyone kind of flooded. I do think that day is coming here pretty soon. I think
Mhm.
that we're already starting to see studios like Epic just fully embrace crypto games.
Yep.
We saw Gala is launching Grit on the Epic
Yeah.
Games Store,
Excited.
and then Mythical is launching Blanco's Block Party, which was just announced on the
Mhm.
Epic Games Store. Both two crypto and NFT enabled games. And when you look at kind of the route that Blanco's went, I think that it is a good route to kind of obfuscate some of the crypto elements and make them optional. Like, hey, if you want these things on or to use these things, you can, but they're not going to affect your gameplay significantly, right? You can go into Blanco's Block Party and you can play that game, have fun with
Mhm.
and do everything pretty much in the game without having to know anything about NFTs or having a crypto wallet. And I think that is a huge thing. And I think that most games are going to find that that's going to be the most successful route right now, right? Is really just making it, making the experience easy, obfuscate the NFT stuff, and, just make a fun game. And Blankos has done that. Like I said, Nino Cooney also done that.
Yep.
And I think that we'll see more and more games kind of understanding that that's the way to go about it. A lot of these games right now are just like crypto this, or we're the crypto somethings,
Yeah.
or, everything's like crypto themed. And I think that just really shows, how nascent this industry really is right now.
Mhm.
And we're working towards getting to a point where, all right, we got some stuff going on. We got big names coming in,
Yep.
and we're starting to see more and more of that coming out. Like, Dr. Disrespect is doing his new game, Project Moon
Oh yeah. Yeah.
is the tentative title there. So I'm very closely following that and covering on my channel. So that, yeah, there are some bigger things going on. I just, I think that it's going to be something like maybe like a Midnight Society, like some of these, or Illuvium or Star Atlas that come out of nowhere and they just dominate this industry. Or really Gala Games is probably one of the best positioned as a development studio to like be the leader in NFT and crypto enabled games. So.
Right on. Well, thanks for that. And one other thing I want to add, because coming from the marketing perspective, when you look at the App Store, like Apple and Google, actually, there's been a lot of crypto projects that have run into compliance issues with that. Yeah. And by obscurating the NFT aspect, kind of like Ni no Kuni, is how you can actually get around those approvals. So if you make kind of a free-to-play open access game where you can just connect a wallet on the side, now you don't have this rigorous approval process through Apple or Android or the Play Store and Google. So you can kind of get your app out there. Now it can be mobile friendly. Now it can be on iOS and Android and PC. And people look for that, right? They look for the cross-platform compatibility. So I think we've got Apple and Google that are a little bit behind with kind of being prepared for compliance stuff with crypto games. Yeah. And this 100%. Is kind of how some titles can kind of skirt around that. I think about Heroes of Mavia. That's one that we're really quite focused on. It's the Clash of Clans kind of blockchain base builder game that's coming out. And that's the route they went. They said, look, we're going to be a free to play game, but the crypto stuff is just kind of off on the side. So there's a very limited, scarce amount of NFT land assets. It's not going to be accessible for everybody, but you guys are going to be like the ones who are most highly rewarded, but you don't need any tokens. You can just play the game if you want. And I do see a lot of bigger titles kind of moving towards this. And I think it's going to be interesting to see over the coming months too, because here's the issue that I run into. Back in November, we were playing some games that were making incredible returns, and I look at Ni no Kuni, Ragnarok Labyrinth, NFT, a lot of these other ones. And yes, the market is what it is today, but there's not that huge earning potential there anymore. It's almost like the fun factor has overscaled the earnings, and now the earnings are kind of lower. And I'm wondering if you think that's a byproduct of this new type of model, or do you think maybe it's more so just the current market? And if it is the current market, is that something we just kind of got used to? There's going to be ups and downs, and sometimes play to earn is going to be much more profitable. Sometimes it's not. And then what do we really do? What's the best way to kind of navigate during that?
Yeah, I mean, the earning element of games, I think, is something that, is in its early stages of kind of figuring out how it works. And so, I would say anything we've seen so far is not necessarily something that is going to be able to be consistently continued in the future.
Okay.
And that's what I was kind of saying about, some of these clicker games is that the tokenomics just aren't there for long term. So when you talk about, well, earnings suck now. Well, yeah, we're in a bear market, man. I mean, everything sucks, So it's like when you talk about the gains, like they're always going to be great during a bull market, but not so good during a bear market. There's no real great way to, mitigate that, because unless you're earning some sort of stable currency inside the game itself. And that would be incredibly hard to do as well. But so I don't think there's anything that we're going to be able to do about that per se. I think it's just kind of a downside of the earning element and how crypto goes. But maybe there's some tokenomics out there that we just haven't seen just yet. Like someone just hasn't figured out the exact perfect formula to make it work in the long run. Like, I mean, you look at, like I said, what Splinterlands is doing. Even in the bear market right now, I mean, I feel like earnings are decent. Like, I think when we see the earnings during a bull market, and you think this is how it should always be, like, no, man, like this is crazy inflated earnings. What we're seeing now is probably what you really have to need to base, anything off of if you're going to be using play to earn as a big element of whatever it is you're doing. So you got to say, okay, well, what's the lowest potential? That's how much we make. Is this sustainable now? Then it should be totally sustainable during any other time, right? And so I think that's what a lot of like people who are very focused on just the play and earn element have to deal with right now. Because there was a time where last year this time people were ecstatic because they were making bank playing Axie Infinity and as a scholar and making more than they would if they were just working a regular job in their hometown city. But then during a bear market, that's not necessarily the case. You go from making a couple bucks a day, now you're making 10 cents a day. And it's like, well, shit, that doesn't really add up for me. And so then a lot of people just stop playing. And so you kind of have this feast or famine cycle, which starts to happen, I think, in crypto games. And so like I said, I eventually you're going to get to a point with that particular game that, you know, it's just going to start bleeding out, and eventually it'll just be less and less and less. And
Yeah.
you know, if it's you know, kind of structured around that. Axie Infinity just came out recently and said, hey, just so you guys know, guys, just want to let you, maybe you didn't realize this, but Axie Infinity is not a play and earn game. It's not.
I know, I heard that.
And
Like,
so
what?
I'm like, you literally built your whole thing off of this. Like, you just, so it's like, you want to bullshit us. Like, all right, man, you know, you have the first massively failing ecosystem and you're trying to save the sinking ship. I get it. But I think that a lot of people have kind of got, you know, roped into that, and, you know, me as well. I mean, I have teams of Axies that I had scholars using, and the interest is just not there anymore because you can't play and earn the same way you could. And like I said, because those models they weren't worked out really well in the first place. So still early, I think, and there's still potential there, but like, I don't think anyone's really found the right formula just yet.
Dude, amazing insight. Thank you so much for that question. One more thing, I could pick your brain all day. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this is another question. Actually, someone from the community wanted me to bring up to you, and I thought it was a really good one. And they were mentioning how they notice a lot of people who got into these games during the bull market, you know, and things are down now, are really creating a lot of FUD about that game, wanting developers to do things, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of happening across the board. And their question was, well, in a way, wouldn't it be better for some of these game development companies to launch during a bear market so that way they can get kind of some stable earnings, or like you said, kind of figure things out now, so that when things do run, there's just more of a positive reaction to the community. You don't get this negative FUD that happened because you started during a bull run. And I thought, interesting question. I don't know the answer, but I want to kind of pose that to you and see what your thoughts were about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, you know, bear markets are bear markets are built for building. That's what I want to say. There you go. Bear markets are built for building. It's all about building during a bear market. That's really what you talk about, what all these companies are doing. You know, instead of like push for user acquisition and you know, exposure and hype, you know, during the bear market, we build. And so I think that, if you have the resources and strategy to build during a bear market, it's a great time to do so. Because you're right. You know, the hype is not there. And that's a lot more to deal with if you're trying to build and there's hype that you're trying to deal with. Like, it's crazy. So, I mean, building during a bear market would be great. It's harder to do. You know, I think that's harder to do because people have just pulled back, right? There's less. They want to spend less. They, you know, VCs want to give less. Companies want to invest less. You know, unless you have a really great idea, whatever it is, you know. But in general, there's just less of everything, right? Less attention, less people around. So it's like, okay, well, if we're building during the bear market, we may only really get X amount of players or people interested in our project. It may not be a lot, but you got to learn how to you know, work with what you have and find some creative ways to market, and then you know, hopefully make it to that bull run or at least out of the woods, right, of the bear market this winter, and you know, hopefully be successful. But it's not an easy thing to do, regardless. But I mean, having a little bit of runway and if you had a solid plan, I think, you know, building during the bear market is essential to really be on top of things when we had that swing back.
Okay, cool. And second part to that question, and then I'll add my last one in after that. And I notice a lot of games are kind of doing one or the other. They're either really quiet right now and kind of letting the community eat itself, or they're trying everything and anything. Right. And I'm kind of wondering, and I'm noticing this too, there's not a lot of give and take in that. It's kind of one or the other. What have you noticed within the wide range of games that you're playing has been well for the companies and the communities? Is it being super active, constantly releasing updates even during the bear market? Is that quietness understandable because they're busy building? And what's kind of your thoughts on that? Because I noticed there's really this polarization here with projects and kind of how they're approaching this market.
Yeah, if you're involved in a project, NFT or game that is being quiet during this bear market, it's probably a bad sign. Okay. You know, I don't think it's a very good sign. You know, in particular for gaming projects, whether the market itself is in a bear or bull market, it really shouldn't change your strategy of how you communicate with your fan base, with the community. You know, so during a bear market, you think things would be chugging along. I mean, you think you want to try and engage people a little bit more to keep people interested when interest is down in general, you know, just across the board. But I really think that no matter what we're in with a crypto cycle, a game development cycle, you should always be trying to communicate with your fan base and not leave them in the dark, not leave them guessing of what's going on. Like, you know, hey, it's been 2 months, haven't heard from you guys. you got to give them something. You got
Okay.
to keep consistent updates coming out, even if they're small things, or run little contests. Like, oh, we don't really have a dev update this week. Let's run a little giveaway or some sort of engagement content or something. To
Okay.
keep the community engaged on what you're doing and what's going on. So they can be interested in each chapter, each step of your journey. And if you can't get them interested in each step of your journey, and there's big long chunks where there's just like nothing, then you probably don't have the best marketing strategy. And like I said, if the project you're involved with is just straight quiet and not saying jack shit for months, probably not a good sign. Maybe a rug pull, who knows? But yeah, if these companies aren't building during this time, then they probably didn't set themselves up to be able to do so, and that's an issue for sure.
Okay. I'm just gonna say, you already know how I feel about you, man, but you should be a consultant for some of these projects. I feel like they could learn a lot from you.
I do some consulting. I do have a project come to me, and I do some consulting here and there. So
wonderful. Well, that's great to hear that. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about that? Can you share anything with it? Is that part of the business? Is that something on the side? What's that look like?
I mean, I don't necessarily consider it like a big part of the business that I do, but when people come to me and they're like, hey, I would really love to consult with you. I'm always open to it, and I do charge a fee for that. But in general, I just try and find the best way to be helpful to that company. Like, I've seen a lot here in crypto games, and it's pretty. I can pretty quickly point out what things are issues, or what things can help to maybe put them to the next level, stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I just trying to be helpful where I can.
Wicked. Cool. Well, I know we're running out of time, so I think the last thing I'll end it with today, was there anything that you'd like to mention before we go, or highlight? Like, what are you working on right now? What are you most excited for? Is there anything you kind of want to share with the community here?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I love games and gaming, and I have other things going on besides just the content creation, which is great. Even though that is kind of my main focus right now, but been working on a sandbox game. So really pushing ahead on that. It's a secret agent themed game. So Secret Agent Stash.
That's cool.
You go on a mission with Secret Agent Stash to try and save New Meta City. And it's cool. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there, man. Like, I'm really excited for the team and we're working together to get this developed for hopefully Sandbox season 4. We still have season 3 coming up, and then season 4 should be later this year. So hopefully it'll be ready by then. But it's like a third person shooter. So you're walking around, you got boop, 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 or you can sneak. So it's either shoot or sneak. So that should be pretty fun. And then I'm also bringing back my Secret Agent Stash card game, my NFT card game, which is like a way to interact with my live stream while it's live. So you use NFTs to kind of get me to do shit. So like change disguise while I'm on a mission, or change games, or get me to play blindfolded for 2 minutes, or get me to sing a song, or do an airdrop, like a NFT airdrop, or so there's a bunch of this. So you use these NFTs live, and then it notifies me on screen. It's like, oh, so and so uses NFT, now you got to do it.
That's really cool.
So yeah, so that game is coming back. I had to revamp the whole thing, but it's just a cool way to keep people engaged for your channel for live streams. So that should be fun.
Nice, man. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that with. I'm gonna pick up some of those cards, and I'm probably gonna use a few during your live stream. That sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And I'll look out for the sandbox game too. I'll be sure to put all your information down in the description below. So of course, if anyone hasn't checked you out, they definitely can. I'm sure everyone in our community knows who you are very well, because I talk about you a fair bit anyways, but just in case, I'll definitely have all the information there. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us today and answering all of my questions. It really means a lot to me. And until next time, guys, cheers. Thanks, Stash. That was awesome, dude. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Good combo, man. You had some great
questions. It was. You have some of the best insight in this space, just hands